Captain Marvel returns to the Triskelion. She approaches Jennifer, who has finally woken up. Carol is happy to see her friend, but wanted to speak to her before anyone else did. She needs to tell Jennifer about what happened to her cousin Bruce. She tells him Hawkeye was put on trial over his actions, and the verdict just came through. She-Hulk demands to know the result, but Carol is worried and doesn't want to give an answer. The news is unprecedented. Clint Barton practically confessed, but today he will leave court a free man. With overwhelming public support for Hawkeye and Carol, coupled with the complete collapse of Stark Industries stock value, things are looking grim for Tony. But there's one thing you should never, ever do. Count Iron Man out of a fight. Tony is lost. He needs help. He knows everyone thinks he's being overdramatic or is lashing out because of Rhodey, but he's not. You cannot predict the future. It is not written, it hasn't happened yet. And Ulysses not only sees these visions, he experiences them. There's no way that sort of thing wouldn't have an effect on him. So Stark scanned the Inhuman's brain. You can call it wrong, you can call it very Dr. Doom-like, but he did it. It's done. He was hoping, deep down, that he was wrong. But he wasn't. Ulysses' brain is like a giant computer. It takes information and signals, measuring energy and data Stark doesn't even know about and using it to create these visions. They're predictions, nothing more. Accurate ones, potentially, but it's just guesswork. And that scares the hell out of Tony, because it's profiling. By definition, Carol is acting like these visions are a matter of faith, a certainty, but they're anything but. Meanwhile, Ulysses' powers keep changing. People around him are now experiencing the visions more and more, and Stark is afraid of where he's going. So Tony's gathered a group of heroes to lay it all out before them. He wants them to tell him that he is crazy. He wants to be told he is wrong, because after all these years, Tony has finally learned to listen to Steve Rogers. Stark says he doesn't want to ever fight like they did in the first Civil War. Not again. But Carol and the facts are forcing his hand. Dr. Henry McCoy is able to verify Stark's data about Ulysses is true, so it comes down to what Carol thinks. She says it remains pretty simple in her eyes. If someone came up to her, pointed out a person on the streets, and told her that person had a weapon he's about to use, she'd check it out. She'd investigate. And really, it doesn't matter if it's an 80% chance or even a 10% chance. If that person's right, she's going to go check. Because even if there is that small of a chance of Thanos or any other crazy threat knocking on the door, Carol would always take that chance. Having heard enough, she gives one final warning to Tony. Back off. So Stark turns to Cap, asking if he's being crazy. Steve says his friend has some points. Tony decides one way or another he's going public with this information. The people have a right to know what Carol and her band are up to. Medusa and Black Bolt share a meaningful look with one another, but say little else. Later, at the Triskelion, S.H.I.E.L.D. has made an arrest based on yet another vision. This time, it's a seemingly normal banker who is supposed to have ties to Hydra. However, S.H.I.E.L.D. is having trouble finding any evidence to support this, and the woman insists she is innocent. Worried about violating her rights as an American citizen, Maria Hill and T'Challa want to let her go, but Carol insists that she will find Nightcrawler. With that, S.H.I.E.L.D. goes to full alert. This is happening. It's time. Carol says she's going to have to arrest Tony Stark, but they won't have to look very far. On the roof, Tony and an army of heroes wait, ready to dig their heels in. He warned her over and over again he said this was going to happen. Carol simply calls for Stark's arrest, which Tony finds amusing. He points out she is badly outmatched in terms of superpowers, but there's something you should know about Danvers. She's got friends in all sorts of places. Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and this is my recap and review of Civil War II number 4. Alright, well here it is. The battle is starting, the lines have been drawn, and it's finally war. It's no secret at this point that I'm pretty much on board with Civil War II, and issue number 4 hasn't really let me down yet. But apparently I'm alone in liking this series, or at least in the minority. Maybe it's because I don't expect the world from these things. All I ever really want is to see some great characters go through some big events. Crossovers are supposed to be a treat for us fans, a fun opportunity to see our favorite characters working together to solve problems, or to see something new and different. On those merits, the last few Marvel events have hit their mark and hit it well in my opinion. Axis, Secret Wars, Civil War II, they all seem to be doing exactly what I want out of a crossover. The only time I don't like crossovers is when they fail to even be remotely fun or interesting. Convergence. Here's the thing though. Even if my standards are lower for big events like this, Civil War II is exceeding all those expectations. I like how Tony turns to Captain America in this story. That's evidence of a man who's learned from his mistakes and is trying desperately to seek an alternative to war. We can all tell what Tony is thinking here. He's just so bummed out that he has to go to war with half of his friends. Again. You can feel how crushed he is by that, and it really moves me. And that's one thing that makes this story so good. It doesn't feel forced. This war feels like a natural consequence of circumstance, not something anyone really wants. And however contrived these circumstances are, or the whole predicting the future thing, it is pretty compelling to me. Personally, I'm impressed with how well they are handling this. I think Bendis is doing a really good job at making this issue that divides the superhero community a real issue, something in stark contrast to the first Civil War. It's just refreshing to have our heroes being heroes on both sides of the fence, and though I am on Team Tony, and it's cool even to say that, I really do see where Carol's side is coming from here. She's approaching this problem like an officer of the law, while Tony is looking at this thing more like a philosopher with a highly advanced robot suit. Meanwhile, there's a lot to like here on top of all this. I like the apparent changes in She-Hulk. That should be interesting. I enjoy the currently ambiguous status of the Inhumans in the war. That surprised me, and I don't know where it's going. I like how Tony desperately went for one final olive branch, and yeah, I really think it says a lot where his character is these days that he deferred the decision to Cap, which as we know, but Tony doesn't, was like the worst thing Stark could have possibly done. That all kind of comes together really nicely for me, and then, on top of it all, David Marquez's art hits home, and for me, this last panel here makes Carol's team almost 100 times more interesting than it was shaping up to be. This is awesome, and I just can't wait for the next issue. However, in spite of all this, in spite of me coming to defense for this comic, I am not saying it was perfect. One thing that bothers me, and really bothers me, is that we're actually past the halfway point in this event and the fighting's only just starting now. That is by far the biggest problem with Civil War II. The whole beginning was way too drawn out for what was necessary. Yes, it led to some natural division that I was just complimenting this comic on, but the fact of the matter is we just don't get much war in this Civil War. Looking back on it, it would have been very easy to cut out most of the content from issue 2, and that could have easily cut down the first 4 issues into 3, which would have been a better way for getting the story going more quickly. It's an almost crippling flaw that I think will keep Civil War II from being great, but it still has been entertaining, still has been much better than the first Civil War, and still gets a solid recommendation. If you like this video, you should check out our website, where we've conveniently organized all our Civil War II videos onto one page. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.